without even intending to. I just made the greatest pickup attempt of my life so far. Reddit, what is the smoothest thing you have ever done that resulted in a date? So I was in a coffee shop this morning studying for a midterm. At one point I look up from my table and I see a $20 bill laying at the feet of an attractive blonde making an order. I assumed it was hers, since her wallet was open. So I walked over, picked it up, and gave it to her. She took a look in her wallet and had all her money accounted for. So she told me it wasn't hers and said something along the lines of finders keepers. So without thinking I handed the 20 to the cashier to pay for her order and walked back to my table. A few moments later, the blonde walked over to thank me and give me the change. I said I know that normally guys are supposed to introduce themselves first and then take a girl out for coffee, but since I did this all backwards, how would you like to sit down and give me a chance to introduce myself? She sat down. We talked. I got her phone number and a date this weekend. In no way could I have scripted it any better. So Reddit, what is the smoothest thing you or someone else has done or said that ended in a date? A buddy who is not a drinker went out on street Patrick's Day and had his once in a lifetime drunk. We lost him at the bar and he ended up being driven home by a good Samaritan who picked him up off the sidewalk hours later. We decided to prank him, so we looked through the student directory for the most Irish girl's name we could find. Came up with Catty McCarthy, faked a note from her with phone number, and jammed it in the pocket of his pants. He finds the note the next day and can't for the life of him remember, but he calls her to try his luck. What we didn't count on was that, if she is so Irish, of course she was out drinking on street. Pats. She can't remember all of her night either, but since she gave him her number, she accepts. They went out. Cute girl at a house party walked in on me in the bathroom one time, stammered an apology, and scuttled back out 20 minutes later. She walks by me standing in the hallway and goes, "Hey, I saw your sausage." I'm normally more subtle in my approach, but I was kind of drunk, so I just said duck it and went with, "Wanna see it again?" Actually worked. Went back to her place an hour later. Edit, why is the hiver mind spamming me with nice? Did I miss something or this just an anomaly? One time I had a girl in my car that I really liked and wanted to impress. Now, this was in the late 1980s when CD players and cars were really new. I had a custom installation that worked pretty well, but it had some flaws. In particular, I had to hit the play button whenever I turned on the car. Then the amp wouldn't kick in for about 30 seconds for some reason. So I was in the habit of hitting the play button as soon as possible as I turned on the car, so the tunes would start up. So we get in my car, a Mustang convertible at the time. And as usual, I hit the play button as soon as I started the car. But having done this literally hundreds of times, I was very fast and fluid at it, and the girl didn't even notice that I had done it. So we pull away, driving down Pacific Coast Highway in Southern California along the ocean, as I recall. So the girl says, "Hey, how about some music?" I knew the amp was just about to kick in. So without even glancing at her, I snapped my fingers in front of the CD player. The timing was perfect. The music immediately started up. My expression never changed, like I expect magic things to happen at the snap of my fingers all the time. She just stared at the CD player, stared at me, then just shook her head with a little laugh. I felt like the smoothest king of the smooth people. I totally just snapped my fingers pretending I'm as cool as you. Was walking past a coworker after we got off work and she looked upset. I strolled over and just said, "Whoever bailed on you sucks, and you should come have a drink with me." I was just trying to lift her spirits. We have been dating about a year now, and I'm asking her to marry me in 2 weeks. A few years back, I was walking out of the bar about to jump in a cab and head back to my place. As I'm leaving, this cute, drunk brunette was just walking in, asked, "Where are you going?" I replied with, "Going home. Care to join?" She said, "Yep, let's go. Easiest pickup ever. I hate you so much." I'm a girl, but had a guy recently make a pretty smooth transition to asking me out. I was driving down the road and a car turned into my lane and hit me. We exchanged info quickly because he was running late for an appointment. Later he called to make arrangements to get an estimate and pay for the minor damage to my car. We ended up talking for 2 hours and he said, "Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm kinda glad I hit you. Maybe if the estimate is done early enough we can go get lunch afterwards. TLDR, when you see a cute girl driving next to you, just ram her. Works every time." This worked really well for my friend's parents. Before they met, her dad saw her mother across a parking lot in her car and intentionally rear-ended her so he could talk to her. I saw an amazingly attractive woman at a house party and thought I might introduce myself at some point that night. I ended up getting wasted and blacking out. Sometime later, my friend took me home. A week afterward, she added me on Facebook and gave me her number. I have no idea what the hell I did. I did the same thing last week, except instead of chatting to an amazingly attractive woman, I lost my phone, wallet, and keys. This is buried already, but I'm proud of myself for this one. I always had a good rapport with one of the tellers at the bank I go to, but I didn't want to ask her out in front of the whole staff and embarrass her. So I got my checkbook, filled out a check, and wrote her name on the pay to the order of line. On the amount line I wrote one moderately priced dinner and signed my name at the bottom. One day when I happened to get her as my teller, I went through the usual deposits and then she asked, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" To which I said no, thank you, and as I turned away, I stopped and said, "Oh, wait, actually, there might be. I have this one other check, but I'm not sure if you can cash it." I handed the check over to her and she looked at it, then looked closer, then turned beet red. After a few seconds, I said, "Hey, if you can't cash it, it's no problem." To which she replied, "I would love to, but I'm seeing someone right now, otherwise I totally would." I said maybe next time, and left. But as it turned out, she and her female co-workers had been talking about me for some time, and they had been telling her she should ask me out. So it came as quite a shock to her when I moved first. Months later, after her relationship went sour, we went out and have been dating for 6 months now. Edit. To clarify, I guess I wasn't clear enough when I said she and her female co-workers had been talking about me for some time. Once the relationship she was in came to that stage, that some relationships get to where all your friends start saying, "Why are you still dating her/him? Why don't you guys break up?" It was at that point that the other 2 girls she worked with started to suggest offhandedly, "You should date someone like him," after I would leave the bank. She wasn't out looking for men while dating someone. It was just something one of the girls said during work one day. I found this all out after we started dating, and we were reminiscing about that day I brought the check in. I have to say that I've met some real questionable women in my life, but she's not one of them. She's actually been the most supportive and loving woman I've ever met. I was working at a club, and I was walking towards the bar when I made eye contact with a gorgeous girl. I was about to take a drink from my glass, and when it slipped out of my hand, I picked it up and walked over to her and didn't slam the glass down, but I set it down with a little force and said, "You owe me a drink," and she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because when I saw you, I dropped mine." Instant smile and flirty hair flick did more than get a number. I could easily see myself using this and absolutely butchering it and creeping the girl out. Such is life. "No, really, you need to pay me." Flings glass across bar. "I'm going to drop you if you don't pay." I worked at an information desk on a college campus about 2 years ago. One day, an attractive young lady around my age asked me where the cookie shop was. I directed her to it, and she thanked me. After she left, I realized I should have made a move, and I hated myself for not doing so. Then, I saw her later that day. I waved to her. She waved back and smiled. I motioned for her to come to the desk. I asked her, plain and simple, "Could I call you sometime?" She said sure, and gave me her phone number. One day while we were chatting about a week later, I asked her what kind of cookie she went to get the first time I saw her. She had no idea what I was talking about, because she wasn't the same girl I had seen initially. I was outside a house party one night, smoking a cigarette, when a girl commented, "You shouldn't smoke cigarettes. Put that out." I then replied, "The only way I'm not smoking this cigarette is if you knock it out of my hand and kiss me." I think you get what happened next. You finished your cigarette and went back inside?